Hello, today we're going to talk about softness. So when I say softness, let me talk about what I mean. I'm talking about a way of being or a way of relating to yourself and others. And I think the reason why this is an important principle of connection is because softness, a loving kind of softness, creates a connection to compassion, empathy, understanding that allows for growth in a way that harshness does not. And by harshness or hardness, again, I mean a way of being. So one of the most famous recent examples of this that I've learned about in the world of business is the way CEO and founder of NVIDIA, Jensen Huang, talks about the way that he motivates himself. He talks about how on the daily, he will get up and look himself in the mirror and berate himself for all the places where he feels he or his company suck or are not performing the way that they should, the way he expects. But he uses a form of criticism or harshness to motivate himself to grow in his performance. So harshness, obviously, if you look at Jensen as an example, he's one of the most, if not the most successful, effective entrepreneurs ever. He's built the largest company in the world right now, taken some incredibly risky bets on his own intuition. He's quite an impressive CEO. There's a lot we can learn from that. So I'm certainly not saying it doesn't have an effectiveness or an upside. What I am saying is that if the only speed you can bring to the race is harshness, then there's also a cost. And in my experience, that cost is very, very high, and it gets paid not just by you, but by the people around you. Because if you think of the example of what it's like, if you're a parent, the very first time you ever held your child, or if you're not a parent, you can certainly imagine this. The very first time you hold that human being, there's an incredibly profound and very soft form of love that you bring to that relationship. The way you modulate your voice, your tones, just the care with which you hold their physical body. There's a softness to your love. There's also a fierceness. At the same time you're soft in the way you connect with that little human being, there's also a fierceness around how you would protect them and what you would do to keep them safe. So softness isn't weakness. And softness doesn't mean, for example, in the case of your own growth or performance, that you're going to lower the bar or lower the standards that you have for what you want to accomplish. Those two things are completely separate. But if you don't hit those standards at some point, you don't meet that bar or meet your own expectations, the softness is regarding how you're going to treat yourself as you go to work on bridging that gap, as you go to work on growing your ability to produce those results. And what I have found is that for people who only have harshness, again, the cost is high because that relationship you have to yourself lacks love. That relationship you have to yourself lacks empathy or understanding. And when you can bring that, especially when what you're dealing with are hooks or triggers or things that have happened to you from your past that have their hooks deep into your brain patterns and into the way that you function when those buttons get pushed, the best way to move through being at the effect of those things is to love your way through it, in my experience, not to harsh your way through it. Because the harshness ultimately comes from some judgment anyway. And the judgment is often the thing that got you in trouble in the first place. So I'm really practicing this. I'm practicing bringing a softness to myself in those moments when I fail to meet my own expectations or produce the results I committed to, while at the same time not lowering the bar on myself. This is new for me. I'm someone who has learned how to be high performing through pushing myself and not being concerned about the ways that I motivated myself affected my sense of wholeness. So this is new for me, and it's creating a new connection I have with myself that just feels more rounded and whole and complete. Like the way I felt about my daughter the first time I held her, and honestly, pretty much every time I hold her. She's almost 29 now. So I'm inviting you today, especially if you're someone who's high performing, who can relate to this concept of using hardness or harshness to motivate yourself to cultivate a new speed, a new gear. And that gear is softness. Try bringing softness to yourself throughout the day, starting first thing in the morning when you wake up, and doing that without lowering the bar on what you expect from yourself. But when you miss the bar, instead of recriminating yourself, criticizing yourself, beating yourself up, so to speak, return yourself to that space of softness and look and see from there what there is to learn, what there is to understand, what there is to do in order to, next time at bat, produce the result. So I want you to know that you are as beautiful a soul. You are as worthy a soul as that most precious child you held or you could imagine holding. That was the way you were at your birth, and that is the way you are today. Despite the wrinkle lines on your face, or the harsh words that sometimes come out of your mouth, or the things that you do that sometimes violate your own values. Despite all of that, that beautiful, precious being that you saw the first time you held that child, or when that child was you, is still who you are today at your essence. So by being soft, you reconnect with that part of yourself that is that glorious, beautiful, beautiful, pure being. And from there, you can grow towards anything you desire. So I hope you'll join me in this experiment of using softness as a way of being to cultivate your next stage of growth. Have a great day.